Thank you so much, Selma. That was amazing. An amazing inspiration to all of us. And Dorothy and Pilar, thank you, and the interpreters and the translators. We're going to go right into this panel. We're going to cut it a bit short. We will skip our little follow-up questions. So we're going to do introductions. The panelists are going to respond to some questions, and then we will be taking a break. My name is Phoebe Jones. I'm with the Global Women's Strike, which is one of the conference sponsors. The strike works out of the Crossroads Women's Center, where day 2 of the conference will be held. I'm moderating this panel, and I'm really glad that we're starting off with this panel, women with direct experience, because I think it gives us a grounding for the rest of the day. We are going to begin with Tree and Philipa. Tree and Philipa will be introducing themselves. Philipa was Tree's caregiver and have a special relationship. So Tree, take it away with an introduction. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tree Muldrow. I live in Philadelphia. I'm a mother, grandmother. I was a former caregiver for my grandparents when I was a teenager, and later for my parents until they passed away. And in 2018, I think, I became a receiver of care. So I have experienced both sides of the issue. And Philipa here is my caregiver, my friend, my family, my daughter. And I think it's a special relationship, but it's a very important relationship in my life. I had stuff that I wrote down, but I can't see it anyway. So, and to make it a little shorter, do you want Philipa to introduce herself now, or do you want
However you two want to divide it.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Philipa. I am a mom to 2 kids. One of them is a 21-year-old special need. He's autistic. I think that is level 4 autistic, nonverbal, intellectually disabled. I have always been his caregiver, and I'm still his caregiver, paid and unpaid caregiver. I was a paid caregiver only when he turned 18. I had been his unpaid caregiver from 2 years old when he was diagnosed. And I'm a caregiver, and this is to Miss Muldrow, who eventually is my godmother and my children's godgrandmothers. Thank you.
Yeah, I've gone off speech because a lot of things that I've just heard and observed. I'm just going to make a few points because I know we're running late. When my parents became ill, I had a government job. I was working part-time, but a well-paid government job. And I had to quit work to be a full-time caregiver to 2 dependent elderly adults. My mother was actually paralyzed and bedridden. I was paid partially as a caregiver for 4 hours a day for both of them, not combined, not each. And it was I would say a 47 job because, they depended on me for everything. So I appreciate how, and I was a single mom of 3 boys. So, the economic effect of this, the emotional effect, it affected my whole family, not just me, not just my parents, but my children also, because of the changes we had to make in our life. Also, a point that I need to make, and I'm going off speech, but the emotional trauma, I should say, of formerly independent people who realize that they need to depend on somebody else for even their basic needs. Cleaning, bathing, feeding, taking their medicine, you lose your autonomy. I didn't really appreciate all this until I myself became dependent. But I was sort of sympathetic to the changes and the hit it makes on your feeling of self-worth and determination or autonomy to be flipped over, because all my life I had been a teacher, I had been a mother, I had been a professional teacher, a mother. I identified as a caregiver from the time I was a child. So all of a sudden, my whole identity was flipped around. And that was very hard at first to accept, to, just wrap my head around it. And I think that's very important to realize that. Also, currently, I don't have any family members that live in the area. So when I became a receiver of care, strangers took care of me. And that was another thing. I had to learn trust. I had to give up so much to let a stranger in my house to do all these things that I needed done for me. And I'm a very introverted, closed person. At first, I was very depressed, isolated. I didn't want to be out in the world anymore, because I just felt like I wasn't me anymore. The first caregiver I had was, well, all my kids, no, I shouldn't say all of them. My first caregiver was a single mom of 4 kids under 5 years old. It's a low-wage job. How can somebody support their children, and I'm talking small children that need around-the-clock care, on a wage of a home health aide? Provide for them, and then, provide for me for whatever, how many hours a day. So that was just the impact on her and her family, beside the impact on me, was just profound to me. I had not really considered that at first. Later, and she became family. Her children became family. She moved away. The next caregiver I had was Philipa. And Philipa is not only my daughter in my heart, of my heart. She is my confidant. She's my cheerleader. Amen. Sometimes she's my disciplinarian. She'll tell me, she'll reel me in and, be straight with me. And sometimes, I actually, to be honest with you, sometimes I resent it, because I've sort of flipped my position of being a mother, teacher, to be almost like a child. And so that's really hard to do, but it's done in love, and I appreciate it. I've had another home health aide who was also a single mother with 2 children. And just the time and effort that Philipa and the other aides, they have to organize their own families at home, and their time and their money and their energy, and then come and take care of someone else. That is such a profound thing. Okay, but also I want to make a point. I'm going to make it really short, because my last caregiver, which I can't really go into, attacked me and seriously injured me. So there's also that trust, I think that needs to be brought out too. Especially when you don't have family, you can choose your caregiver when it's assigned to you. And the danger, I never considered that, because my prior experiences had been great and wonderful. So that's just something I want to bring to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Tree. I'm going to come back to you, Philipa, for more story, but I want to finish people introducing themselves. Next, we have Jasmine and Joanne, who have come. You might have heard the cheer for Gwen Moore. They're from Milwaukee, and so is Gwen Moore. And I think they had the Welfare Warriors, which they both work with, had a lot to do with why Gwen Moore, is so right on as she is. So could you both introduce yourselves? And they are here. Amada Morales was not able to come because of other responsibilities, but they are very able spokespeople for her. So welcome and introduce yourselves.
Hello. My name is Joanne Perez. And first of all, I want to give honor to God Almighty, who has allowed Miss Beautiful Phoebe to, and all these other wonderful, beautiful women to put this awesome conference together.
Amen, yes.
First of all, I am a woman of God, a mother, and a grandmother, and an advocate for welfare warriors. In 2019, I beat felony charges after I fled with my grandchildren. When CPS showed up at my door for the second time, unannounced and unscheduled, to unlawfully remove my grandchildren. Excuse me. I am currently reunified with my grandchildren because of the motion to implement the Family First Act, so that my grandchildren would be placed with their parental grandparents. 2 of the children are living with me now without receiving food or kinship benefits because of the way the CPS has criminalized me. I have been a volunteer court advocate since 2019, and I am currently the Welfare Warriors co-secretary as well. Despite of all that happening to me, I still work on implementing the Family First Act on cases to keep families together. I have risked everything to stop my grandchildren from being raped in the foster care system and being traumatized in a failed, corrupt system that we have. So I looked up some data, and 98 allegations of child maltreatment were substantial against 53 licensed foster parents in Milwaukee County. National statistics say children in foster care are at high risk of abuse compared to their peers not in care. Approximately 1 to 5 children in foster care will experience abuse or neglect. Additionally, children in foster care are almost 10 times more likely to be sexually abused than children not in care. And DCFS gets $22 million every 2 years to take away our children. And for that reason is why I continue to fight for the Family First Act and dismantle DCFS in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Jasmine Powell. I'm also an advocate from the Welfare Warriors. I've been involved with them since, I want to say 2015, when my 10-year-old got took at 2 days old. I got a few notes. I'm gonna make it short. Welfare Warriors, what we do is that we advocate for moms like ourselves and other women who deal with DCFS or deal with CPS, which is also known as Child Protective Services, to help mom cure safety concerns so the child could come back home. We also do court support, emotional support, finding them resources for housing, clothes, if they need a ride or just an ear. We also provide other necessities such as books. We got a play area in the building where we hold monthly meetings back in Milwaukee. I also advocate for welfare warriors on the strength that I'm a first-hand bystander of being a ward of the state and also dealing with them. I've dealt with the state for 20 years straight consecutively, like with no breaks. Child Protective Services is the devil, excuse me, but it's the truth. I walk in authenticity, and they are just horrible. And you know, me as a mom looking at where I've been and come from now, I see the long-term lingering after effects of being involved. Like, you know, I could tell that wherever my kids were placed with those primary caregivers, that they didn't have to lift anything. No basic life skills were taught under the age of whatever. So when my kids were reunified, it was just, here you go. You know, no, not even as far as the benefits, but the help, the therapist, you know, and I had to get those things on my own. And it's just, you know, the kids, they don't understand what they experience, so it's hard for me to like maintain my cool sometimes with them because they're innocent and they don't understand the trauma that they really been through to understand why they rebel from me in a way. And like I told them, you know, it's different, but moral of the story, moms, we deserve respect, love, acknowledgement. We go unnoticed in so many ways. With me being in my fifth semester of college, I want to go back on the economic base. We do deserve pay. Around the clock, kids is being a mom, a mother is a full-time job with no pay, and I'm saying that in a great way. That's an honor for me. I love my children, but in an economic standpoint, we are considered the women that don't work, that is like caregivers at home. We are part of the large lump sum of the numbers that the previous panel spoke about that don't get documented as paid, that basically billions of money is being missed out on from the economic growth. It is a pleasure to be here to speak in front of you. I'm so nervous. I just want to say that to the women, to the families, don't ever give up. Don't ever stop believing and dreaming. Always remember to just try to stay calm, apologize when you're wrong. It's a blessing to be here, and I love you all, and thank you for having me.
All right. Finally, we have from India joining us is Prabha Kotiswaran. I'm sorry if I butchered your name there, Prabha. And we're thrilled to be hearing from a different continent about many of the same things and experiences. So Prabha, welcome.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Phoebe, for moderating our panel. And thank you so much for this wonderful invitation to the Right to Care conference. I really wish I could have been there, but I'm thousands of miles away, and I'm there with you in spirit. So I want to introduce myself as, of course, a mother and a caregiver to ailing parents and to my siblings and to my children. But I'm also an academic. I'm a professor of law and social justice at King's College London.
Prabha, keep it slow.
Okay. Right. So I'm really delighted to be a part of this conference because I have felt like someone who, despite being in a rather mainstream academic field, such as in a law school, have always felt like I'm on the margins. Because all of my prior work was with sex workers in India, where in fact, their reproductive labor has not been recognized by the state, as in many other parts of the world. The state essentially has a criminal law in place to criminalize sex workers. And I have to say that across the world, there has been a gathering momentum to further criminalize sex workers and to criminalize their customers, which affects their livelihood first and foremost. And these sex workers are often also mothers who are trying to actually raise their children despite their very difficult economic circumstances. So I have benefited a lot from and been inspired by the Wages for Housework movement, because in the minefield that feminist scholarship has become over the question of sex work, I think the Wages for Housework movement is one of the few that has actually welcomed sex workers into its fold. And so a lot of my earlier work was trying to understand how one could actually recognize the reproductive labor that sex workers are performing and how to validate it as a form of work, just like any other. It may be deeply exploitative. There could be instances of violence, and there are instances of violence, but the question is the use of the criminal law the right way to address what are fundamentally questions of socioeconomic inequality? So learning from the experience of sex workers, and we happen to have a very robust sex workers movement in India, which really inspired me to rethink some of the materialist feminist scholarship on sex work. And drawing inspiration from the sex workers movement, I'm now looking at social reproduction more broadly to understand not just sex work, but also reproductive labor in the form of erotic dancing, in the form of egg donation and commercial surrogacy, in the form of paid domestic work, and last but not the least, unpaid domestic work. So the project that I currently run, which has a team of many feminist scholars, essentially rethinks the laws of reproduction. Because and the state, although it appears to be completely neutral in terms of how it recognizes or doesn't recognize women's work, is in fact foundational to mischaracterizing women's work as violence. So the idea is to think about what are the legal categories that characterize these various forms of women's reproductive labor and to reconfigure these categories. So are erotic dancers really just troublemakers as the law imagines them to be? Or are surrogates essentially dealing in, selling babies? Is that what the law wants us to believe? And what about paid domestic workers whose rights are never recognized by the law? And of course, unpaid domestic and caregivers.
Why don't we come back to Prabha as soon as she gets back online? But Philipa, I wanted to come back to you. You were talking about the unpaid work of caring for your son who's autistic and has, caregiving needs, and a paid caregiver for Tree and for others. And I wondered if you could talk about that and how do you feel about your ability to care and your job in especially in relation to your son?
I was at my son's school he was in elementary school then, and I was asked, what do you do? And I said, I'm a mom. Okay. Okay. And I was asked again, what job do you do? I said, I'm a mother. That's my job. And the woman said, oh, don't we all? Because she realized that, wait a minute, that's true. She's a mother too, and that's a job. But she never thought that was a job because that's how we are all being brainwashed. And then she said, what job do you do outside home? I said, now you have asked me a question. I said, I'm a caregiver. But that, being a mother, is the first job I do. And I'm a mom of an autistic child. That means that I'm a speech therapist. If you know speech therapists, how much they earn. But I was not paid. I was an unpaid speech therapist. I was a physical therapist. I'm still an unpaid physical therapist. I am a visual management therapist, and when I pay out of pocket for that's about $6,000 a month. But I was able to talk to the visual management center to please let me do it by myself because I wouldn't have the money to pay. So $6,000 every month is what I am unpaid as my son's visual management therapist. And these are just part of it. I'm also a sound management therapist because he had a problem with balancing and entire ear canal issue. And I get to do all without getting paid. And when I did get a job outside home, as the job I do outside home, as a care worker with the first agency I was working with, I was being paid $13 an hour to work the same job that I do at home that I wasn't paid. And that was the only reason, If I only work outside, is the only reason they will send somebody to my home to be a caregiver to my son while I'm outside. And that person was paid $15 per hour. So this calculation is you go and work for $13 per hour, and we send somebody to your house and we'll pay the person $15 per hour. Very good calculation.
Right.
And this is what most parents that have children on the spectrum faces. I am in large group and I was telling them about this conference today, and I've always been talking with a lot of people, and it's like, isn't it true? Aren't we therapists? But do we get paid as therapists? No. And when we do go outside to work, do we get as much as we should? No, because our labor is really looked down upon as, oh, it's just a caregiver.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you. I understand Prabha's back online, but she's going to stay off video, so we have the least chance of her being cut off again. Prabha, please continue.
Thank you, and sorry about that. So yeah, I just wanted to complete the introduction by saying that there is a very important role that the law and the state play in misrecognizing or not recognizing women's reproductive labor. And we really need to interrogate some of these categories to fight for women's economic rights. That's all. Thank you.
Prabha, since we have you on, can you talk a little bit about the unconditional cash transfers that have been going on in a state in India, which is, yeah, she'll tell us. And could you talk about that while we have you on, so in case we lose you again?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. So hopefully if my connection lags, I will turn off my video. But essentially, yes, what is happening currently is in India is that about 11 states in the country have started issuing unconditional cash transfers to women. And these are in different states, it depends on, it tends to be for poorer women, but the amounts are completely unconditional. So this development is rather new. This came up only in 2021, where a new political party in one of the southern states promised what he called a salary for housewives. And very quickly, there was a huge kind of debate within the country on whether this was desirable or not. So the first set of feminists to get into the debate were feminist economists. And many feminist economists were unhappy with this proposal because in India, we have a very low female labor force participation rate. About 25 to 30% of the women engage in paid employment outside the home. So feminist economists were very worried that unconditional cash transfers of this sort would actually reduce the incentive for women to get educated. It would reduce their prospects for paid employment, and that it would reinforce the gender division of labor. So there were a flurry of articles and discussions around the proposal for unconditional cash transfers. But I think politicians were onto something. They found that in many parts of many of these states, which come up for elections every 5 years, that actually there were more women in a particular constituency than there were men in terms of, voters. And eager to please women, began to promise cash transfers and began to win these elections. So it's unclear whether women actually voted for them because they promised the cash transfers or whether they won because women voted for them because of the cash transfers. So that actually, the data on that is not very definite, but many of these states that came into power started issuing unconditional cash transfers. So in the meantime, there are theorists of the welfare regime in India who also joined the debate. And because these cash transfers are directed into the bank accounts of women through what's called direct bank transfers. So you have to have your unique identification number, and that's linked to a bank account. So the money goes directly into your bank account. many theorists of the welfare regime in India, because we don't really have a welfare state, that would be a misnomer, but we have a welfare regime, which is fairly basic and rudimentary. So many of the commentators on the left argued that actually these direct bank transfers simply depoliticize the political relationship between the citizen and the state, and these cash transfers then get attributed to the individual politician who's promising these cash transfers. And to some extent, they're right in being worried about cash transfers because they can often be used to replace what the state is already giving to a lot of poor people in India, by way of food distribution, for example, and pensions, and other sort of quite minimalistic benefits, including cash transfers to farmers and so on. So they were very concerned that, in fact, these cash transfers might supplant the existing welfare regime. So what I've tried to do is really go and ask women what they think about these cash transfers, because I think that's fundamental to know. So in one of the states that I've recently published an article about in World Development, this is the southern state of Tamil Nadu, the government notification itself recognizes women's unpaid work. It also recognizes their underpaid paid employment. So the rationale for the cash transfer is to recognize women's unpaid work and their unpaid work, underpaid work in the market. And based on this imagination, the cash transfers have been rolled out to about 10 million or 11 million women in the state of Tamil Nadu. So we conducted, as feminists, we went out to women and asked them what they really thought about, the cash transfers. And so we found that very few women, in fact, saw the connection between the cash transfer and the recognition of their unpaid work. But a few of them did. A handful of them recognized that, oh, this could be for our unpaid work that we do within the home. And we found that by talking to them, we didn't find many of the worries that feminist economists had about these cash transfers did not prove to be true. So it did not reduce, investment in education. It did not mean that they were stopping to do paid employment. And it certainly didn't look like it was reinforcing the gender division of labor. Instead, women thought that both men and women in working class families had to engage in paid employment in order to simply survive. And neither were some of the arguments that the theorists on the left of the welfare regime borne out when we spoke to women. So they actually did not think that they were beholden to some politician for the money that they were giving them. Instead, they told us that often marriage was viewed in their context as a contract for securing domestic work. And so therefore, they felt that they often were completely dependent on men for various small expenses. So instead of having to constantly rely on men for meeting basic needs, their basic needs, as well as the needs of their children, they felt like getting this money from the state actually disrupted the marital relationship, because they actually felt that they could, they did not have to rely on their husbands anymore. And this would therefore reorient the bargaining power within the household. They felt like they could take care of themselves and their children to some extent through these cash transfers. So it's very early days. And so a lot of studies would be required to see exactly what the cash transfers mean for the women, because these are not huge amounts. But despite that, women said that they felt their levels of financial well-being were very high. They felt like they had some respect and dignity within the household. They felt like their children looked to them and respected them more. And they also felt that they were seen by the state finally, So they were not just passive beneficiaries of these cash transfers. They actually felt like they could assert their rights, against the state, especially if there was any delays in the payment of the cash transfers, for example. So I just want to end by saying that this is a new experiment. Very much, I think, resonates with the Wages for Housework movement. And I'm really glad to have been able to share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope people caught the numbers. That one study was 10 million, but isn't it 90 million women throughout India?
Yes, that's right. So it's 11 million women in that particular
Yeah.
state, but overall it's close to 90 million women across the country.
Okay, we're going to now do a round of enabling people to add more comments, respond to what's being said. And Tree, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just tell you, I can't wrap my head around numbers too good, and I'm not good at analyzing things.
Closer to
But I just wanted to make a point, a couple points, and I want to get personal, which is very hard for me. I've only been able to do this in the past year, maybe. My relation to everything that everybody has said on this panel, from the ages of 6 to 8, I was a victim of child sex trafficking. So I understand the fear of having your children exposed and exploited by this. I can't see my points. I had to hide my kids from the foster care system. I had to do a lot of shady things to keep them out because during their young school years, I suffered many mental health issues. I was hospitalized off and on for 8 years. I was forced to have an abortion while I was hospitalized after getting pregnant while hospitalized. Let's see. Oh, and these are just bullet points. I'm sorry. I suffer from a lot of I can't think of the word, trauma, but, what do you call it? No, issues that autistic, neuro and just, you know, what do you call it? I'm sorry. Yeah, I wrote it down because I thought of it as sensory issues. You know, sounds, sight. I can't identify faces because of my trauma because I was told never to acknowledge different people that had abused me in the area. So as of now, unless I have an intimate relationship with you, I will not recognize your face. You know, and I think I'll just stop there. And also, my responsibility as a mother of sons, and I think all of our responsibility, is to educate our sons to the value of the work that women and mothers do. And for our equitable compensation. And I think that in our societies, which are most patriarch, I can't say it. You know what I'm trying to say, yeah. That, you know, unfortunately, it is up to the women to, you know, initiate this change. And I think that's all I wanted to say.
Jasmine and then you, Philipa. Jasmine, Joanne, whoever. Would you like to make any closing comments or respond to anything that's been said? And also, you know, appreciate what you're saying about how you're fighting back too, because we need to know what you all are doing to, you know, because you all are amazing activists and the welfare warriors. And
Well, I would say that because of the experience, it made me take a look at the system because I used to, when I would hear about things like that, I didn't feel any compassion in them because I would be like, well, what did they do? Right. But now that I experience it myself, I understand that they don't have to do anything. You know, they target mothers, single mothers, you know, if there's not a man in the household, that's who they target. Because if there's a man, and I heard a quote from, I can't think of the name, but I heard somebody talk about one time that why he was a child molester, a killer or something, and they asked him, how do you target your kids? Do you target them by the clothes they wear, their social life, or, you know, what is it? And he says, he looks at the father. And he looks at to see if the father is going to give him trouble. And if the father's not there to give them trouble, that's the target, you know? And so when I look at this, it's a lot of women that don't have fathers, and they raise their children sometimes like that. And so that is just a target which I see, and it's not the only target, but I mean, if men aren't there to do their job sometimes, they put it all on us, and it kind of targets us. And so I see the compassion, I have compassion now for people in the system because I know we don't have to do anything but be a target. Yeah. You know, and so that's why I'm fighting to help women to get their children back, because the emotional stress, as you can see sometimes when I bring it up, and just by me talking about it, it brings back the memories of how they traumatize us. And there's, when you're done with it, it just doesn't go away. Yeah. You're still traumatized. And so you have to work on it every day within yourself, you know? And so that's why I stay in this fight to support mothers, because I know it's a traumatizing experience, and it doesn't matter how old you are. Yeah. You know, you never get rid of, and you always remember what happened. And so I stay humble because of that, because I've been there. I know what you go through, and I'm here to help, you know. And I want to dismantle, because they get 22 million every 2 years, they bring it up. And now it's up to $22 million to take away our children. And so I'm fighting to dismantle that too, so.
Pigging back to Miss Phoebe, and to the other panelists, I want to say for welfare warriors, on the behalf of Amada, I meant to mention her, Amada Morales, because she given us the opportunity.
Yes, yes.
I want to say, as far as my part and what I do, I tend to like be what I need is somebody to be for me, being in foster care. So like, if I see a young woman and I'm going somewhere, I'll offer a ride. You know, and when I give them a ride, I give them knowledge, you know, gems, you know, teach them self-awareness, giving them everything that somebody should have gave to women coming up in CPS, you know, so that way they can know to avoid, you know, certain things, to be able to live a better life so they won't end up in some of the same situations that us women and mothers go through. Another thing I just want to touch base on CPS is, for me, and I don't know if any other moms is like this, but I'm still battling and trying to pick up the pieces that I never broke, that was broke way before I even existed. And it's hard and it's traumatizing. And, you know, it breaks the foundation, the ground. I missed out on so many milestones, you know, because they take them 3 and under. They'll take them at birth. And it's a lot of pieces to put back together. And some days CPS, even now, it's been, 5 years, and I'm still questioning, watching my surrounding because of the negativity and the anxiety that they bring on. It's like, you can't really live free. You can't live in peace. You know, what if I do this the wrong way or say this the wrong way? But I just want to say, I think us being a support and let us, other moms, see us where we are and giving them the background and history could possibly and does possibly help moms that's coming into these situations. So to let these know that these moms, that they're not alone, that it is supports out here, it is resources, and to not give up and to fight to the best of your ability. It was something else that I wanted to say about what, I don't want to pronounce her name the wrong way. I'm sorry.
Prabha?
Prabha. I just want to say I commend the country over there for fighting for women that is sex workers, because sometimes women do have to do things that's strange and awkward to be able to provide for their families. So big kudos to them over there.
Yes.
And because that's hard. I couldn't imagine having to go through that. You know, I'm a compassionate person and I look from things at a different point of view. And I've been through a lot, but I couldn't imagine us women and moms, you know, all over the world having to do those things. Like, you know, it's not safe, it's dangerous. And our kids shouldn't have to see us do those type of things. They should be seeing happy moms and stuff like that. I want to say, since I've been at Crossroads, Crossroads Women's Center, I just want to say I love the aura, the women there. I like how they come together, and whatever it is that you guys are doing, don't stop, don't give up. And I want to see everybody win. The women deserve to win because we go through so much, we sacrifice so much on a daily. It's so many jobs that we go unspoken for, that's unpaid for, that don't get acknowledged. And I think as long as we keep coming together, everything is going to pan out and it's going to happen.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Philipa.
Thank you. The first thing I will say is, what is work? As a paid and unpaid caregiver, if the value of work or the definition of work is not clarified, to ask to be paid for what you do will not be acknowledged. That's one. And the worker, if I'm a paid and unpaid caregiver, and as a paid and unpaid caregiver, if I'm not here to talk about this, if I do not continue talking to people that it is work, this is work and this is work, I'm getting paid for this, I'm not getting paid for this. If I do not ask to be paid for what I'm not paid for, nobody will just give it to you. You got to ask for it. We got to ask for it. And asking for it is like educating everybody that we come across, and that's what I do. I educate everyone I come across, open their mind to see that there is this imbalance. If I get somebody into my house to sweep my house and do everything, so that person will be paid or to take care of my child. But if I take care of my child, I will not be paid. Getting people to understand that what they are doing deserve to be paid for is the big thing. I would say almost like the biggest thing. So I was born when the wages for housework was started, I think 1972.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I always see myself as, okay, if I was born then, this is so significant that I continue being that voice from my generation, that, okay, it is not only wages for housework, it's wages for all work. What if it is defined as work, then it deserves to be paid for. And so I deserve to be paid for all that, which I do, which I'm not paid for. And I decided not to be a civil engineer, designing and constructing and doing big dams and everything. I put that aside to care for my child and to give care to other people. I shouldn't be punished for this. It hurts. Sometimes it's like, maybe I should go back into the field. Then I think, who will take care of the people I'm taking care of? Yeah. And finally, that sense that your child, you can only take care of your child when they have gotten to 18 years old. I do not know who brought that idea up, but it's like, who needs the parent most? Is the baby to 18 that needs the parent most. So the ideology of go out and walk and leave a child to another person, right, and then stay at home and get paid to take care of that grown-up child at 18 is like, okay, this is the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Prabha, do you have any final words you'd like to say? Prabha?
Yeah, no, I just want to say that, it's kind of very interesting sometimes that political and legal developments can, can converge in some interesting ways. So I just want to end by saying that in a completely different set of cases in the Indian context, the Supreme Court has actually said that, women's unpaid work should be recognized by the state. And in the context of women, dying in road accidents where, their family demanded compensation from insurance companies, the Indian Supreme Court has said, we need to confer equality and dignity on women, and that is by recognizing their unpaid work. So I just want to say that feminists need to be open to some of the experiments that we look and see around us in order to seize the opportunity.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Prabha. Wanted to say that tomorrow we're going to be doing a deep dive into the child separation issue because there have been victories in this of campaigns to open family court and to make poverty is not neglect the law, and including be going deeply into that. I want to thank the panel. We did really well. Okay, we've cut down the time. Yeah. So, did you have one final comment?
Yes,
Sure.
I did want to say, I do thank Welfare Warriors, Pat Gowns. She's been doing this for 40 years, and next month will be 40 years for Pat Gowns, and Amada Morales, woo-hoo to her too. The awesome is she's been a worker for 16 years, so just
Great.
want to thank Warriors, Welfare Warriors for helping me out.
Yes.